It's a pleasure to welcome you all to Western for our annual conference, this year on the theme of understanding replication across the sciences. I'm Chris Smeenk, the director of the Rotman Institute, and I might need to move the mic. Oh, turn the mic on, that helps. So I'm director of the Rotman Institute of Philosophy. The Rotman Institute was founded 10 years ago with the generous support of Joe Rotman, who was Western's 21st chancellor, and the Rotman Family Foundation. The philosophy courses Joe Rotman took as an undergrad made a profound impression on him, and he often spoke eloquently about the value of his philosophical training. And that inspired him to establish and help build an institute that would bring the benefits of philosophy to larger audiences, including the sciences and the general public. So it was inspiring to find a donor who shared our conviction that philosophy can and should engage with the sciences for the mutual benefit of both. Each year, the Institute hosts a conference on themes reflecting the range of interests of our core faculty members, from cosmology and the future of space-time to the interactions between organisms and the environment. The common feature of these diverse conferences is that they draw speakers and participants from a variety of disciplines, including scientists, philosophers, and historians of science, among others. I'm particularly excited about this year's conference because this is an issue where the kind of interdisciplinary discussion we're about to undertake is both essential to progress and extremely timely. Many leading outlets, such as news outlets such as the New York Times, the Guardian, and the Atlantic, have published in the last year or two extended discussions of the so-called replicability crisis. The concern that we're in the midst of a crisis has been provoked by various recent results, such as those from the Reproducibility Project at UVA's Center for Open Science, which found that over 60% of studies published in leading psychology journals could not be replicated. These reports have come at a time when even well-accepted scientific results, such as attributing climate change to our use of fossil fuels or the effectiveness and safeness of vaccinations, are rejected by prominent public figures and politicians, especially south of the border, and increasingly, we face a skeptical public reception of scientific findings. Addressing the issues raised by the replication crisis is crucial for giving the public the appropriate tools for understanding scientific knowledge. So this topic is particularly apt for an interdisciplinary conference for at least two reasons. The first is that work on replication carried out recently takes up a number of themes that have been a central focus of philosophy of science for decades. My own response when I first read these discussions of the crisis in these popular periodicals was to ask why philosophers have not been more involved in the discussions. The issues raised in the discussions of this crisis are just bread and butter topics for philosophers of science, focused on the use of evidence in justifying theories. So there's clearly so it isn't the case that no philosophers have been involved, but there's clearly an opportunity for more engagement and more discussion. So and one goal of this conference is to bring about further connections and see where they lead. Again, this is an area where philosophers have thought about these issues in detail for quite some time, and so there's really a possibility for them to make a contribution to these discussions. The second reason why this topic is particularly apt for an interdisciplinary conference is that the character of the questions differ across different fields. In a field such as physics, as we'll hear about this morning, we aim to find universally applicable laws governing the phenomena. So the expectation of replicable experimental results is a natural reflection of the kind of theory we aim to develop and the kind of evidence we seek for that theory. But in other fields, the nature of phenomena under study itself may preclude replicability in the sense that we seek in physics. The fail to replicate would not be a crisis in these fields, as we expect so much variation that replication, like in the case of physics, would be an unreasonable demand. In fact, in some cases, replication would itself be a sign of trouble rather than any evidence that methodology has gone astray. So it's essential to consider these questions in various different disciplines rather than only focusing on one discipline. So I realize that in these brief remarks, I'm preaching to the choir, as your presence here indicates that you're already convinced that these are important questions and you appreciate the value of an interdisciplinary approach to them. So let me close with just two final comments, and then we'll get right to the talks for the morning. So first, in our past experience hosting interdisciplinary conferences, it's often the case that communication across disciplinary divides is more difficult and challenging than communication within your home discipline. It's also more rewarding, which is why we're having a conference of this sort. But I do ask to be a bit more aware of the terminology and jargon that you're using so that we can try to head off miscommunication that arises primarily because of differences in understanding of key terms. So I think we should just be a little bit more conscious of the possibility of misunderstandings that arise for those reasons and try to head those off before they lead to disagreements that involve people talking past one another. So that's just one thought. Remember that we're speaking many different languages and take a bit of extra care to be precise in how you're addressing questions. Second, and more importantly, I'd like to thank many of the people that made this event possible. So first, there are many local sponsors that have contributed to the conference. So we have funding from 3 faculties at Western: the Faculty of Social Sciences, the Faculty of Science, and the Faculty of Arts and Humanities. So it's great to have support from so many faculties across campus. My colleague Mike Anderson, with the assistance of Claudia Choco, prepared a SHIRC connection grant. That's the Canadian funding agency that is supporting the lion's share of the budget for the conference. And so I want to thank Mike and Claudian for preparing that application, and Jackie Sullivan also assisted in preparing that application. So thanks to everyone who did that. We've been assisted throughout by the Rotman Institute staff, so Stephanie Desarmeaux has been contributing in various ways. And finally, I want to thank the people who've borne the heaviest load in terms of organizing the event. So first, Debra Fox, who you met as you came in at the table, and she might still be back there. Where is Debra at the moment? She's over here at the moment. So thank you, Debra. You've, especially the speakers, have been in touch with her. And Claudia Choco, who's done a lion's share of the work in organizing the conference. So thank you to everyone who supported the conference. Let's give them a brief hand.